Agents are just going back and forth, figuring things out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like, has that been your experience at all, or like, are the engineers that you're helping, are they just like giving you agent output and like you're expected to debug that?
Yeah, I would say that's also been a issue, not just myself, but in general, is that agents are generating PRs. The PRs generally have more code, certainly more tests, right? And then the PR description, we're like, oh, I don't want to write descriptions. Here, agent, you write the description. So now there's
Uh-huh.
all this text that's not really useful for me and such. So as a result, I created my own agent to review PRs and
Yeah.
read all this, and then suggest what you think should be fixed and everything. So in the end, it's like yours, just agent to agent communication. I would say the only difference between agent benefit and human benefit is the more information in general we can give the agent, the better. So the more context
Hmm.
stuff. Or this is why I did this. This is the agent speaking. This is why this was here. This is what this was, so that then humans aren't getting inundated, but the agent can handle it.
What is up, everybody? It's Kent C. Dodds. I'm joined by my friend Ben. How are you doing, Ben?
Great. Yes. Thanks for having me. Excited
Yeah.
to
So
talk about AI.
yeah, yeah. It's life has been fun, and it's a pleasure to have you, Ben. You and I go way back, like way back. Goodness, probably for like 6 or 7 years.
See what you
Sorry,
did
sorry.
there.
I know you're a dad too. You probably had plenty of that.
Of course. Of course. You just
Uh,
right out the gate with it. All right.
yeah. My kids get so mad at me when I do the 6-7 thing. They're like, "Dad, it's not even funny anymore." Like,
Once we start doing it, then it's no longer cool. So
yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah, it's been a while. But I think it'd be useful for folks to get to know who you are a little bit, kind of get some context around what product engineering means for you, and all of that. So why don't you give us an intro of where you've come from and what you're doing now, and how you think about that?
great. Yeah. So to formally introduce myself, my name is Ben Ilegbodu. When I met Kent, I was working on React and doing all kinds of React speaking and just how to leverage React to build awesome websites and such. And then I slowly started moving, I guess, behind the scenes, working more on UI productivity tools. So building the tools that other UI engineers would use to make awesome things. So I've kind of just been in that sphere for the last few years. I'm at Netflix and working on a TV UI productivity team. So all of the Netflix TV UI engineers were helping to be more productive. And of late, a lot of that has been AI enablement. So providing the different tools for folks to be able to work faster, leveraging I guess I'll say responsibly, but at least understand what they're doing and trying to level up the team to understand how to use it better.
Cool. Yeah. I think AI, like obviously it's the everything now. When you're talking about AI enablement, is this both like using AI tools to build, or like building AI features?
It's more so using AI tools. We have the product teams that are also, or product managers that are figuring out how we can leverage AI in the actual product. But this is more so developer productivity, I'll say, using AI. So that's like using Claude Code or using Cursor, how to do agentic development, that sort of thing.
Awesome. Yeah. So are you doing AI training with that, or are
Yeah.
you like building stuff? What does your day to day look like?
Yeah. So a lot of it is training. So when we introduced Cursor to the development team, like showing what it looks like to chat with an agent, kind of my workflow of how I start a conversation, what that looks like to be successful, because no one should be one-shotting an implementation. There's always some conversation, and depending on the model, potentially how that goes, and things along those lines. So it's a lot of just building confidence and comfort in using AI from a development standpoint.
Cool. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And
Are
the whole workflow too, our software development lifecycle. So you've done the implementation. Well, what comes next? You have to review that code, and you can leverage AI to do that and use AI to um, review issues that are in production, like all of those kind of things. Like, how can we leverage and provide information to the agents to be able to do all the things that um, are cheap for it to do and that it's really good at doing?
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you end up building a bunch of AI powered tools to like make people more productive as well.
Yeah, a lot of it is comes down to skills when you break it down. It's just like, how can we provide the right context to the agent or give it access to the right data sources so it can retrieve it. And then everything from there kind of flows.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Um, I imagine that there are a lot of challenges and interesting, like specific implementation details of the stuff that you're doing, and of course, like things have changed a lot. Skills only really became very relevant 6 months ago or whatever. And who knows what the future is going to look like too, as these harnesses changes stuff. Has that been kind of difficult to keep up with?
Yeah, so that's also the thing is we're trying to insulate people from having to be on the bleeding edge. We're not trying to have people constantly changing the way that they work and such, because then folks are trying to deliver and ship product. They're not trying to learn necessarily how AI works. They want to leverage it and be accelerated from it. So trying to reduce that churn by providing infrastructure, or I guess systems in place where they can do the same thing, but instead of, oh, it being an MCP server that was getting that information, now it's a skill. But at the end of
Mm.
the day, the prompting and the communication with the agent was the same.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Do you have your skills referencing MCP servers? Because like the authentication mechanisms of MCP make it really compelling, or are you like, do you have a CLI that handles that stuff for you?
It's a mix, really. So skills are making API calls, CLI calls, or accessing MCP servers. Um, it's basically like wherever the data is, just grab it, essentially.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so as you're building out these tools, you're doing these trainings. What is your input for knowing what your engineers need to help them be productive? Like, how do you know what problems they need solving?
Yeah, that's been the trickiest part because a lot of people, there's a lot of, what's it called? Um, where people don't feel like they should know, imposter syndrome. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. So people don't want to reach out and say, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that?
Mm.
There's a lot of excitement around AI, and you have people who are on the bleeding edge showing all of these workflows. They're using work trees and multi-clotting and all these kind of things, whereas they're just trying to, learn how to use it. So they don't show or don't explain what is the things that they're having difficulty with.
Yeah, they may not even realize that they're doing things suboptimally. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't even know that there was a better way.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of it is us reaching out to individuals. So I have one-on-ones with people just, because I do, or whenever we're having casual conversation, and just ask, oh, well, how is this going? How do you do this? And really being able to figure out what the needs and the concerns are from folks.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, are there key people that you have those conversations with, or like, I'm guessing that your team at Netflix, like, you probably serve a lot of people,
Yeah.
and so, like, are there key people, or do you just kind of pick people at random and chat with them?
Uh, it's usually people we have connections with already or that we interact with. So I don't know if there's specific people that we reach out to, because those are probably the people that we already know that are already leveraging it in the way that we know. It's everybody else, right? So you have hundreds of developers, no developers doing it in the same way, right? So we want
Hmm.
to be able to reach as many people and impact as many people, because we'll find that this group of people uses AI this way for their slice of the product, whereas this one uses it differently, and because they have different goals that they're trying to solve. So it's a little bit difficult trying to get connections with everyone, but that's what helps us build a better tooling system doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show was because I think when people see become an epic product engineer, they think, oh, okay, so this isn't for me because I'm building internal tools. Like I'm not building the product. I'm building tools that support the people who build the product. But I think that thinking like a product engineer, like the skills that you need for that is are like actually the only skills that or the most important skills that you need to build software solutions. So even if you're not building the consumer-facing product, um, like you can be a product engineer. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how are you a product engineer, even though you're building like internal like
Yeah.
productivity tools?
Yeah, the product is what we deliver to developers, and I
Hmm.
would argue that it's even harder because developers speak directly to me. So yeah, Slack, this isn't working or whatever. Whereas this like level of separation with the end users. So in the end, the way we say is our customers are the developers. So they're not the people spending money at Netflix or have a subscription. They're actually the other developers, and everything kind of flows out from seeing things from that lens.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that kind of changes things a little bit because when your product, like you're building the product, the thing that people pay you for, you have kind of a good feedback loop of are people paying? Yes, they are. Therefore, we are successful.
Yeah.
But if you're doing internal stuff, how do you measure success?
So some of it is are people not complaining because sometimes silence is golden in that but then also just getting feedback. We can also see how people are using the tools, which tools they're using because we've instrumented observability, those sorts of things. So it's very similar when you think about it. Like, how do you know that you're making money? Well, you're observing, what's happening, how people are using the product. This onboarding flow, they get stuck here. Well, it's the same thing for tooling as well. It's just a lot harder. They're not the same golden path or paved path to these sorts of things.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, on that, like, do you have a team of other engineers that like not that you service, but like that are on your team also doing the training, also building the tools? What is the team structure like?
So we are focused on TV UI engineers, but there are broader teams that are focused on all engineers. So they're supporting all the different tools that we have. So a lot of the times we try to piggyback on the work they're doing on
Mm.
the docs they're providing or guides they're providing. Because when you specifically start talking about tooling and AI tooling, there's not that much difference between what we're building and what product engineers are building or backend engineers are building. It's like how you interact with an AI agent is consistent across. It's just what exactly you're trying to get it to do and what data sources you're connecting with.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, with the teams that you're helping, the TV
Yeah.
native teams, what would you say are the problems that they are experiencing the most with adoption of the AI tools that you're building and that you're facilitating and the skills and things? Like,
Mhm.
what's the biggest challenge that you have or that they have adopting these?
So it's really the same challenge that we have in general with TV development, in that the models are trained mainly on web development. Like TV development looks like web development, but it's not web development.
Mm,
Not a browser that we're using and interacting with. There's not CSS and things like that. But it kind of looks like that. So we need to build the same infrastructure that's baked into Cursor. Like it has a baked in browser and knows how to connect with it. There's all kinds of toolings or MCP servers to connect your browser to what you're writing and have it automatically understand so the agent can see, quote unquote, what's happening.
mm.
That stuff doesn't exist yet. So those are the things that we're having to build to make that connection so the agent can be autonomous. And I'm not having to say, oh, okay, this is what it looks like. This is what the result of the code you changed. Now fix it, continue, those sorts of things. That's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, yeah. That like closing that agent loop is
Yeah.
so key to making people productive. Um, uh, because you are not actively working on the TV and product, what's the um, like your source for determining that these were the problems? Is that from the conversations that you're having with people, and you're just like, because like we said earlier, they may not know that there's even a better way. Like they may not realize that you could, if you close the agent loop, then it can be a lot more autonomous. So how do you like uncover those problems?
Yeah. That's the challenge with being on a tooling team in general, is having the empathy for others. Because and it's not like I don't have empathy, I'm just not building it, so I don't know where those little gaps
Mhm.
are. So for instance, in all the work I do, essentially my UI is the terminal effectively. So I was having all of those, the agent loop was closed for me. So I was able
Mm.
to have it run something, look at the console output, make a decision, oh, this unit test failed. Okay, let me try to figure out what to do. Agent was there. But if you're talking about UI and you're talking about a TV app, that's not there. So eventually that came out and started bubbling up, and we realized, oh, yeah, that's an important part that we have to try to solve there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can we dive in a little bit deeper on how that eventually happened? Like you mentioned that you have conversations with engineers.
Hmm.
Is this coming out in the trainings that you're giving? Like you're like, and yeah, of course, you just fire it off, and then you go get yourself
Yeah.
a donut or something like.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? Like I'm very much integrated with this thing.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what happened. We're in meetings and people were sharing their AI workflows and such, and people are talking about, oh, I have all of these work trees doing all of this work, and it's like, well, can I connect it to the TV launcher so I can see what's going on? Oh, right, you can't. We got to figure that out. And in the end, that ends up being like the hugest unlock because of the closed loop. Now, all of a sudden, you can create a full spec of what you want to build and then have it iterate on it. And when it realizes it did the wrong thing, the layout is incorrect, it's able to course correct itself and really have that acceleration. Because otherwise, if it's not being able to see what's happening, then it's probably making the wrong decision. All of a sudden, I could have written this faster than what it did because it's making lots of poor decisions, right?
Yeah, yeah. It would be like building a native TV app without ever looking at the UI you're building, which is
Yeah,
exactly what I was doing.
effectively, yeah. And the interesting thing about Netflix as well is that the TV app has been around for over 10 years
Mm,
enough. So imagine 10 years worth of code written in over 10 years in different ways, right? So the agents are really good pattern matchers, which is fantastic when you have good patterns. But and it's not necessarily that we have bad patterns, it's just that we have different ones
yeah,
over time. So then now it's really confused as to the best approach and what it should do now. So,
yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of sense, and that is a big part of what you are doing is helping steer the agent toward the good patterns and less of the bad.
yeah, yeah. So the funny thing is with AI development, I found is that there's nothing really new that we're doing. It's like this would have been beneficial before for humans, but now it becomes more and more important because we're hands off from it. We're not able, the agent's not able to go and talk to so and so and figure out how it should be built. It's trying to do it from the context in the repo and such. So, having great documentation for how stuff should be, having a single way of doing things, like that would have been helpful for us 3 years ago, 5 years ago, but now it becomes more important. So in the end, the agents benefit from it, of course, but we benefit from it as well.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the principles of programming haven't actually changed.
Yeah.
I wonder though if like maybe agents are not human, and so like they are able to do things that we cannot do. And I wonder, as the coding agents get better,
Hmm.
if some of those things just start to not matter as much for them. And like just as we talked about, the landscape is just always changing all the time. And so spending a ton of time fine tuning workflows and things seems kind of I'm not going to say it's a waste of time. It's not, but it's disappointing when you spend all of this time and energy poured into one way of doing things, and then the harnesses change to something better, and now you have to change. Like, what would you say are the durable skills that you want your engineers to develop that like will stand the test of time, like even as agents continue to improve?
Yeah. So I think what to build is probably the biggest thing. Like we've always had to figure out what to build, and we were forced to when we were writing it by hand because it would take a long time. And there's this, it can be this sneaky desire. Well, it'll only take me three hours to do this. I'm just going to do this and do that and do that and such, and just throw spaghetti on the wall. But I think that's probably the last frontier of what agents will be able to and models will be able to figure out. It's like what's the right to build, because the agents, the models aren't talking to the customers, so they won't have that ability. So planning, decision making like that is probably the most durable. And then kind of along with that is coming up with specs of how something should be built. Right now, they need to be really detailed because the model will make inferences and assumptions and such. So we make good plans. But I think over and or along the lines, the details of what that plans are can get, you know, thinner and thinner and such. So I think that plus verification as well. So right now, we're still looking at the code that agents are generating. We still care what it looks like because humans are still reviewing it and such. And we only somewhat trust the output, right? But moving forward, verification is just going to look different and different. So maybe it's just verifying the output and that it does the thing that we say it does. And we don't care about the language and how it's written and such. So those two things really, spec writing and verification, end up being the thing that we've always been doing, and now kind of the final frontier, I think.
Yeah. I have to say, like, I promise everybody listening, I did not plant those answers. Like, these are the things that I've been saying on this
Okay.
podcast and elsewhere, like for weeks and months now. Is that like deciding what to build is like the last thing that agents will take away from us. Like eventually maybe they'll be able to do that, but until then, our industry still exists.
Yeah. Yeah. So the people, it's all about the people with the ideas,
Yeah.
essentially. Like
Yeah.
those who have the ideas and the way to think about how they can come about are the ones that will be the most successful, right? So it's once development becomes cheap and easy and enables anybody to be able to do it, especially like non-technical people, then it's really about the ideas that you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, and like who knows? We're kind of making forward-thinking ideas, right? Like, who knows how good these things are going to get? What's the ceiling, and how quick will we get there? All of that. But what's cool is that the skills that you mentioned will be valuable even if they don't improve at all starting today. Like, if they stop, these skills are actually still the hallmarks of the greatest engineers at your company already.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look back 2, 3 years ago, those with the ideas and the way to see them happen and to push through them, those are the ones that do the best. It's not necessarily those who can write perfect TypeScript and such. Like that was helpful, to make sure code was performant and maintainable over time and such. But it's really the decision making that sets people
Mhm.
apart.
Yeah, and that like systems thinking, understanding the system. I actually think it's tied really closely to the verification you talked about. Like right right now, depending on what you're working on, you might be looking at more or less of the code. But I think that eventually the agents, coding agents, will get good enough that you don't really need to as much. But you do need to still do verification. And what I think that's going to look like is you will have an agent that will like look at a PR and say, okay, here is how this affects the system. Like, you've got your system, they're going to expand it a little bit with a couple more primitives, or they're going to work within the system. They're using these primitives, piecing them together in this way to accomplish. But like, it's all going to be the system level thinking, and your verification will be system level, more than like actually looking at the code.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also the folks that will have longevity are the people who are building the system, building the harnesses and how everything connects. So the folks that are writing the skills or building the connections between parts of the software development cycle, like those who are not just using the agents, but helping the agents be successful, I think are those who will have more and more work to do, right? So, um, code review is a big problem right now because people are churning out 3 times the amount of code, but we as humans can't review 3 times the amount of code. So how do you solve that? Oh, well, we need a system that'll allow AI to review code. And you create code review skills and all of these different things. Well, someone's building that. And then there's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing to enable this kind of loop to happen. So I
Yeah.
find that that is like where a lot of the work ends up going. And like, how do you eval that what the skill you wrote is helpful? This new content you wrote is helpful. Like, we're adding stuff, but maybe it's hurting things. We need to be able to evaluate those things. Like all of those skills, I think are really helpful, really useful.
Yeah, it's interesting for you in your position. The product that you create is ultimately for the engineers that you're helping, but it actually is consumed by the engineers' agents, and so like you have to think more beyond just the developer experience, but also the agent experience, and like you said, evals or whatever you need to do to like get that feedback back from the agent.
Yeah, exactly. So again, though, like I was saying, whatever is good for the agent ends up becoming good for the developer as well, because it's just more context, the correct information that they can have.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm working with somebody who's building an API for me, and of course, I'm not using the API. I just hand it off to my agent. And so when something goes wrong, or there like I can see that there's some friction there, I just tell the agent, write a message to this person describing what you're trying to do and what problem you're having. And like identify yourself as an agent. Like I'm not pretending that I wrote this. And then
Yeah.
I hand it off to him. And then I literally just told him today, I'm like, I hope you don't mind that I do this, but like I pretty much don't expect you to read this. I'm expecting you to copy this and give it to your agent. So, and he's like, yeah, that's exactly what's going on right now.
So agents are just going back and forth, figuring things out.
Yeah, exactly. And like, has that been your experience at all, or like, are your the engineers that you're helping, are they just like giving you agent output and like you're expected to debug that?
Yeah, I would say that's also been a issue, not just myself, but in general, is that, like I said, agents are generating PRs. The PRs generally have more code, certainly more tests, right? And then the PR description, we're like, oh, I don't want to write descriptions. Here, agent, you write the description. So now there's
Uh-huh.
all this text that's not really useful for me and such. So as a result, I created my own agent to review PRs.
Yeah.
Read all this, and then suggest what you think should be fixed and everything. So in the end, it's like yours, just agent to agent communication. I would say the only difference between agent benefit and human benefit is the more information in general we can give the agent, the better. So the more context
Hmm.
stuff. Or this is why I did this. This is the agent speaking. This is why this was here. This is what this was, so that then humans aren't getting inundated, but the agent can handle it.
Yeah, I think like intent is something that has become really important to me as
Yeah.
I'm talking with agents. Like I have a personal agent that I have like build me custom software. It's a worse version of OpenClaw that I made myself.
Okay.
But like in all of the packages that I have it create, I have it make an intent.md that's like, this is what Kent is trying to do. And so as you're making changes, make sure you either update the intent if Kent is saying like, I want to change what this does, or you don't change anything that like goes against what the original intent was. And that actually ends up being really
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. One thing I've heard and been learning recently when we start talking about harness engineering is that it's important to have a document that is like, this is what this thing does, right? So if you add new functionality, then you'll add to it. But if you add some code and it breaks some feature about what the product does, then it enables the agent to be able to verify against those things. Because it could build stuff, but then all of a sudden this new feature goes away. Well, it didn't know that feature was there, or agent 7 didn't know that that was supposed to be there. So
Mhm.
I think your intent.md is like the same concept. Like, this is what this thing is.
Yeah, I love that your fill in there was for Agent 7. I wish that you'd said Agent 007, but
Yeah,
that,
missed opportunity.
yeah.
Your next interview, you got to leverage that.
Yeah, it's very good. Or we could have said Agent 7 of 9 if you want to get the Trekkies, but so I
Agent 6 or 7.
oh no. Oh, that's so good. 7, that's good. 7, 8, 9. Yeah, all right. So you have been shipping faster, obviously. Like you mentioned this, like this is happening. Both like the internal tools that you're building, but also the product user facing things that your engineers are shipping.
Hmm.
How is that speed of development affecting the like the ultimate user experience that like your paid users are doing? And what are some things that you have to like find yourself intentionally doing to avoid issues with the user experience?
Yeah. So that's something we've talked about, is that if we're able to deliver 3 times better, do our users actually want 3 times more features, right? And this
Mm,
goes back again into deciding what to build. So that 3x increase could go to, instead of having 2 cells of an A/B test, an A and B, maybe now we could have 6, A, B, C, D, E, and then figure out which is the best one. So it's still like one feature that's going out, um, but we are able to do more and be able to have a better chance of figuring what's the best one. Or it's code cleanup, right? Tech debt cleanup. We can leverage that additional throughput to do those. So in the end, I think we'll be doing our users a disservice if all of a sudden we're just throwing more and more stuff at them, because we know that change, everybody knows change is hard, but then
mm,
every day, Netflix is changing every day. Like, that's going to cause churn, and nobody really wants that. So,
yeah. Yeah, I gotta keep an eye on that. How like I'm curious. I know that you're on the kind of the infra team,
mhm.
and so I actually want. I'd like to hear both answers to this. Typically, if I were to say, "How do you know decide what to build at Netflix?" We're going to think about the Netflix product. But I'm curious on both sides of that. Like, how involved are you in stakeholder conversations about like external things that are going to be built at Netflix? And also how do you learn what you need to learn from the users of your skills and everything to make sure that you are supporting them in the things that they're supposed to build for the end
Yeah.
user?
Yeah. So that the second one is the trickiest one, to be able to know what skills folks are using and how beneficial they are to them, right? Because I know all the ones that I'm using and how beneficial they are to me, but not to everybody else. So to be honest, that's something I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's the best way. Like, there are Claude Code plugins, so we can, our hooks, so we can know what is being used and such. But it's one thing for the skill to be used. There's another thing for it to have been successful. Like,
Right.
I used this skill, but then, I kept saying, no, that was wrong. No, that was one, uh, going back on it. So I will say one thing that I've just started using, a friend of mine told me about it, was the concept of a retrospective skill. So /retrospective, at the end of a chat, you call /retrospective and it'll say, oh, this skill should have been changed this way because you asked it to do something different. Or this skill was written well because you gave it a thumbs up. Or if it had this context, then I would have been able to spend less time spinning. Like, those sorts of things, that I've been doing, and being able to get some insight of like the holes, the gaps, or what's going well and such. So the idea is that folks will be willing to improve the system by, more people running those things, and then realizing, oh, we need to have documentation on how this side of the app works or things along those lines.
Yeah. So this is kind of a training thing for the engineers to be told, hey, like, please
Yeah.
use the retrospective skill.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, everybody isn't an infrastructure engineer. Not everybody wants to build the tools that everybody uses. Like, there are people who are very good at product engineering. I'm not one of those people. And there are people who really focus on infra, which is what I do. But if we can enable some people or more people to kind of help build up the tooling, because I won't know all the things that are necessary for a product engineer, like we were saying before. But you have kind of infra interested product developers who are willing to do that, then give them the tools to be able to improve the system.
Yeah. That's one of the cool things about building tools that are consumed by agents is then you can use the agent to improve itself, sort of. And so, yeah, that helps a lot.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Uh, so as far as the way that Netflix decides what to build internally or for external users, are you involved in those conversations? Like the reason that I ask is I feel like it would be useful for you to know what your engineer, like what tasks your engineers are getting or what jobs to be done your end users have, so that you can build tools that will facilitate an accelerated development pace for
Yeah.
them building those things.
So the team I'm on really focuses on the tooling. So imagine CI and running unit tests, and then now AI, like I was saying. But there are other teams that focused on the component library or how routing works and those sorts of things. Those are the teams that mostly talk with those other teams to figure out like what features are coming down the pike so that we can build up the infrastructure and things like that. We want to make sure we have the right components in place so that when you're telling your agent to build this thing, that it's able to pull from the right places and such. So I'm in those meetings just because we're all one team, but not necessarily from the perspective of building new AI tooling to enable your agent to build that.
Yeah.
But that's actually now a good idea. Maybe I'll steal that from you.
Yeah, I think it does make sense that you're in those meetings because like it's easy to tune out in those meetings too. But like if you're listening to the problems that they're describing with the background and like your understanding of the system you've built, you could think, oh, you know what, like that's a problem that I could solve with my stuff, like that I could accelerate your pace or whatever internally.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it's good
Good idea.
stuff.
I'm gonna
Well,
pretend like I came up with that.
super. That sounds great. Just let me know how it goes. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, definitely don't credit me if it goes poorly.
That was all Ben. What are you talking about?
Well, hey Ben, it's just been awesome to chat with you. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you were really hoping we would get to?
Let's see. Really, I think it's the fact that we are all learning, right? Some people are further along in the journey, have been doing it for longer, but I don't know if there's anybody who's like they are an expert at it, especially because things are changing. So, and then I also want to say there are people who are AI detractors and they're like, no,
Mm.
I can write better than this agent, which is probably true given how they're using the agent. But I think
Yeah.
we're at the point where it's been long enough that I don't think it's going away. Like we've made it almost through the hype time, right? And it's just becoming a way that we develop. It's almost like having memory managed code. Like when Java came out, people were like, I don't know, it's doing all the garbage collection. Maybe this won't last. But then, now it's the de facto. So I think people just really need to take the time to learn and realize that this is just a new tool. And now we're building on top of AI instead of building on top of whatever we were before. So those two things is taking the time to learn and kind of realizing that it's here and trying to improve yourself as a result.
No, yeah, I love that. Um, yeah, AI detractors, man. That it's almost like saying you don't want to you want to use JavaScript instead of TypeScript, but yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a very good analogy, to be honest. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The thing is like right now we're at the standpoint that maybe um, like performance reviews aren't taking in the fact that you're using AI or that you built things with AI. But at a certain point, if all of your team members are using agents and you're not, they're more productive, then you know that's going to show up. Whether or not you thought the AI was doing a good job or not, or you could do it before faster. If everybody else is 3x faster, then it
yeah.
becomes you look worse. I guess I'll say.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good call. Ben, this has been sweet. Let's get
Yeah.
a piece of homework for folks. What's something specific that somebody could do to improve their like judgment, their systems thinking, verification, whatever?
Um, I think what they can do best is as they're developing and developing with an agent, start thinking about the prompts or the things they're doing over and over and over again, and make that a skill. And I think that just continues to accelerate what you're working on. So you find yourself always saying, "Give me the pros and cons of your decision making." Well, let's make that now a pros and cons skill, or part of a bigger skill. So I found a lot of my workflow things are now skills, and I can run a lot faster. Now it can give me more details because I wrote the skill once, that sort of thing. So I think that skills, they may get replaced in 6 months. Who knows? But right now, they're the best tool that we have to accelerate our agentic development process.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that whatever they get replaced by, if they are replaced in the near future, um, having a collection of just markdown files that describe things that you want the agent to do could be easily converted over to whatever the new thing is.
Yep, I would agree. It being simple markdown helps a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. Well, Ben, this has just been a pleasure. Thank you for that homework. What's a good way for people to keep up with what you're doing or send any follow up questions that they might have?
Sure. Yes, you can always find me on my website, benmvp.com. You can also find me on X, Twitter, at benmvp. Pretty much anywhere you go, at benmvp, you'll find me in some way. So that's the best way.
Super. Thanks so
Yeah.
much. Thanks everybody for joining. Don't forget
Thank
to
you.
like and subscribe and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see you.
Hit that bell so you get the notifications too.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you, Ben. All right. Yeah. See y'all later. Thank you.
Bye.